Welcome back to another episode of Hot Takes. I'm joined by Liaz. How you doing, mate?
Good to be back on the show. It's been a minute.
I know.
Yeah, life's good. Life's good.
I know. Ten Hag, Man United.
Life is very good.
Very good. Very good. It feels, we have to be very open with this. As we're recording this, it sounds like it's imminent. It's about to happen. Maybe by the time this has gone out, he is the Man United manager. Your take on that?
Listen, when Oli was fired and it looked like United was heading towards another rebuild, in my head, I kind of envisioned an interim manager, ended up being Ralf Rangnick, into the summer, and then Erik ten Hag being the next Manchester United manager. And if the reports are to be true, my wish has been granted. Erik ten Hag will be the next Man United manager. For me, it's a relief because I think he is the right appointment. I have been on the record saying that, been consistent with that. Now, listen, we've seen so many managers at the club. We've seen so many mistakes been made, whether they were the right appointment, whether they were the wrong one, whether the club backed them enough, whether they didn't. They need to look at this guy, give their full trust in him for the duration of his contract, believe in his project, believe in his process, buy him his players, and let him get to work. And for me, the phrase I've been saying over and over and over, even if they hired Pochettino, who I've had my criticisms of, don't cheat the process. Believe in a process. Believe in the guy you hire, which is Erik ten Hag, and go with it for the duration of his contract. I'm excited to see what he can do.
I love that don't cheat the process thing, because that's what we've always done. Every manager that's come in, and this is what fans have got to, my message is here to more Man United fans than it is to rivals, because rivals are going to have their own opinions, and that's great. Every manager, whether you have liked them, their style, how they've done press conferences, how they've managed players, none of that fluffy stuff matters. What you should focus on is the fact that the club has pulled the rug from under each of their feet. Yeah. David Moyes given half a season, no real summer transfers after what went on. He weren't a good enough manager, but they pulled the rug. LVG has openly told us they were buying in players that he didn't want, and he never got to see his project through, and he felt he could have been more successful. Jose, same thing. Wanted Pogba, Martial gone. In fairness, the fans kind of like, oh yeah, we're back the Glazers on this one, because they wanted those players to stay. Oli doesn't need explaining. Every single time, whether you thought that manager was going to be successful or not, they haven't allowed the manager to operate to the fullest. The most they did it with, the manager they did it the best with was Oli. But of all four managers, they did it with the worst one.
And even with Oli, you could even argue, and I'm not an Oli fan whatsoever, even with him, they cheated the process. Buying Cristiano Ronaldo when the club needed a defensive midfielder wasn't the logical footballing thing. And again, that's what I mean when don't trust the process. Believe in what this guy wants for the next 5 years. Map it out. If reports are to be true, it was reported earlier today on Wednesday that Erik ten Hag gave a 5-year plan for United. What players he thinks the club needs to target, who they need to let go. Follow it. Don't 3 years in, when Erik ten Hag says, okay, this is the time now where we need to find our Alisson and Van Dijk. Don't go buy him Robert Lewandowski because he's a 34-year-old on the market that can go sell shirts. Trust the process. Yeah. Don't cheat it.
You're absolutely right. And fans, stay patient. Yeah. My hope is for supporters as well that there is almost universal agreement that Ten Hag is a top-class coach. Because again, the last two managers, especially since social media has boomed and you see the opinions more, it's been Jose is a dinosaur, tactics outdated, can't develop young players, doesn't like buying young players, blah, blah, blah. Oli, a substandard coach, freestyle football, no structure, no systems. None of the things that we have labeled, at the very least, the last two managers, you can attribute to Ten Hag.
Yep.
Not one of those. So I don't see how there can be there's preference, but drop your preferences. There's none of the things that we've been annoyed about of the appointments of other managers, or we've criticized them with, are labeled or attached to Ten Hag in any way, shape, or form. So the fans here also have to have real patience and allow this to cook and give it time, and don't these weird, ridiculous expectations of, well, we should be winning titles. Now we should, but there is I don't like to use the word all the time, but a process to it. You sound like Gooners when you say that. It's going to take 2 to 3 years to be able to compete for a Premier League title. It's going to take 2 to 3 years to be good enough to maybe compete to win a Champions League. The one thing I want fans to do, though, is demand that there's almost instantly an improvement in the structure. So the shape of the team, what we do out of possession as much as in possession. And those those things for me, those three things there have been more of an issue in the last 4 to 5 years than how the football looks when we're attacking, because that's when we've been caught out. That's when we concede the most of our goals. Defensively, we've had one good year in the past 5 where we've actually looked quite sound defensively. That was, I think, the first season, that Ollie's first full season. We looked fairly strong for a season. As soon as we tried to open up and be more expansive, we're caught in the transition. Getting back into shape was hard. So I want to see those improvements straight away. And as long as I see them, and I hope other Man United fans echo me in this, the rest of it is just, let's relax then. We're not getting beat up badly. We're not getting overrunning games. We're controlling matches against the vast majority of teams, probably barring the big boys, and we grow from that point. That's my only early demand from Ten Hag, if that makes sense, because Patrick Vieira's done that at Crystal Palace.
You see managers with infinitely less resources able to play that style of football.
Yes, so that's my only demand from day one. But from then, I'm going to do what I've done with the previous 3 managers. Let's give it time to get ourselves to a point where we can actually win a league title. This is not a league where no one else has our resources. Nobody else has the ability to win it. We're not Barca or Real Madrid, where I think they can turn things around quicker. We're not Bayern Munich, where it's literally a one-horse race. We're not PSG, where it's literally a one-horse race. This is it's a different league. Whether people think it's better or not is another debate, but it's harder. But I'm very excited about it. But you're right. My fear is cheating the process. I'm going to steal your phrase now permanently on that, but I will credit you for it. Cheating that process is my biggest and most ultimate fear in relation to this, because that's what we've done every other time. It's the Glazers and the board that will ruin him. And I want us to break the trend, because the trend at Man United has been this pretty much since Moyes. This has been the trend. The squad's good enough. We need a different manager. We get the new manager, but now he needs time to build his own. He starts building his own, and then it doesn't work, and we start to blame the manager and say he's washed or never good enough. This squad is good enough, though, to win leagues with. We sack the manager, a new guy comes in, doesn't win. The squad's not good enough, so we start rebuilding the squad. The squad gets built. We then get angry at the manager for him not delivering with that squad. Any manager could come in and win the league. We sack the manager, and the process has just happened over and over again. Manager, new manager, squad's not good enough. Squad's rebuilt, the manager's not good enough, new manager comes in, and it's the same every time.
And the worst part about all that you're saying is the contingency plan at United has been horrible. And this is why I wanted Ralf Rangnick, for example, as a consultant at United, or in some position of power, because I wanted his vision of how football should be played, whether you agree with it, whether he's able to execute it himself. He's shown he hasn't. But pressing style of football, I want that to be the theme of any manager United hires for the next 5 appointments. So even if Erik ten Hag doesn't work out at United, the next manager you get in, it's not like going from Van Gaal to Mourinho and then Mourinho to Ollie and now Ollie to Ten Hag. Because when you hire and fire managers that are so completely drastic in their approaches to the game, the players you need to suit that manager's style are completely drastic. So when Mourinho comes in, every player that played under Van Gaal doesn't suit the way Mourinho plays. Mourinho gets fired, Ollie comes in. Every player that suited Mourinho's style of football doesn't suit Ollie's. United has to have a contingency plan at this point. Again, I hope that they give Erik ten Hag the amount of time. I don't even want to be talking about who comes in after him, but that really has to be the thing.
But someone that matches the philosophy, it would make, there's no point having Ten Hag for 3 to 4 years, and then you go, right, you've taken as far as you can.
And then go hire Simeone. Like that's my whole point. Yeah,
exactly. That's how we've operated this whole time. And I think it's very, very key to do that. But look, United fans should have an element of excitement,
100%.
But still keep your foot on the Glazers' neck is my kind of view.
Right.
This weekend, though, United play Everton away. Surely, this should be 3 points.
There's nothing sure about this team, Terry. Like I don't know where this certainty comes from, to be honest with you. Like, I think I probably speak for every United fan. I wish the season was over at this point. Like these last 8-9 games are completely dead rubber. I think the race for top 4 is all but mathematically finished for United. All I really want to see from the players is a response, because it looks like a lot of them have kind of clocked out.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to point out any names, but like, you can look at a lot of them and they are clearly just zoned out.
They're on the beach already.
Yeah.
And they've given, and that's a shame, because mathematically we can still make it. And we'll get onto Arsenal and Tottenham a little bit later, but they're not infallible. They will drop points.
We literally gained a point on Arsenal.
I know. We were terrible. We gained a point, and it's why again. What I'm hoping is that the Ten Hag news triggers a bit of a mental response of, oh, there is actually, we now know who the new manager is and he's watching us, because Ten Hag will be watching.
And I mean, listen, the most outrageous news that's come out the last few weeks is I keep hearing that the squad prefers Pochettino to Ten Hag, and they question his resume. For me, every one of these players, I don't give a shit who they are, excuse my language, should be playing for their United careers. Like, they should be playing dreading that if I don't play well enough, Ten Hag's going to come in the summer and be like, you're not part of my squad. I remember Van Gaal, his first preseason here at United, cleverly was trying so hard to like get in his good books. I think he even came out and said, he's my kind of manager. Van Gaal sold him off to Villa that same window. Every one of these players should be fearing for their United careers, because the fact is, very few, if any, have shown anything in the last 3 years to suggest or to make anyone think that they should be surefire names. I see United saying, considering contract extensions for Fred and Luke Shaw. For what? Fred's had a decent season, but nothing that makes me want to say, get him on board for the next 5 years. Yeah. Every one of these players for the remainder of the season should be playing so hard to convince Erik Ten Hag or whoever's coming.
They absolutely should be. And, you know, there's talk of Ten Hag looking at kind of he wants this almost like Dutch stroke Premier League connection, someone that can, I think, help him integrate, someone that maybe have some, you know, let's say it's Van Persie or Jaap Stam, both have been linked. On paper, they say it sounds great, but I'm almost at a point where I'm like, well, it's still one of them now. Just as a scout sitting in the dressing room looking, and I would do something to shake them up a little bit. But on the game, I know we're not convincing, but Everton, excuse my French, shit.
Yeah, they're horrible.
They are so bad.
They're
like
horrible.
if we honestly, if we don't beat them. I know it's at Goodison, but if we don't beat them and they raise their game because it's the name Man United and we allow ourselves to drop points against them, I will mark it down. It will be more embarrassing than Watford beating us 4-1. It will be because this Everton team, I have never seen Everton so bad in my lifetime. They've always been generally a good team, a hard team to beat, and whatever else.
Goodison Park is tough,
but they have just, and the appointment of Frank Lampard is one of the most embarrassing football decisions I've seen outside of Manchester United. And we
this is what I say about Everton before sorry to cut you off. Everton, for me, are a less rich Manchester United in the way that each club is run. So yeah, it makes complete sense.
We should be beating them. Prediction wise, I'm gonna go over 2-0 actually. 2-0. I think we'll win. And then what will start to happen is we'll start to get the little bubble for top four back. As in the fan base will watch. They'll get the little bubble.
They'll get the little bubble.
They'll get the bubble, man. They'll get the bubble. What's your score prediction?
Man, I don't know if I'm just really negative at the moment about United, but I can't see a win, honestly. Like, I see another draw, maybe 1-1. 1-1. We'll go ahead, and people will, again, they'll get sucked back in, and I don't know, De Gea will throw it into his own net or something.
Mate, that could definitely happen. Now, I've got a hot take for you.
Okay.
So, of course, viewers, the show is we talk about the weekend coming up and news, but we throw in a hot take or two into this. So I want your view on this hot take as well. So this here is from Benny. And Benny says, it's not hate on Sancho's name. If you point out but if you point out how extraordinarily bad he has been since signing, Dan James was hated for much less. But we pick and choose the standards when it suits us.
I mean, there's a lot to pick apart from that tweet. First of all, I know this guy. He's not a fan of Jadon Sancho. And to be honest, I've seen in the last week especially a lot of criticism aimed towards Jadon Sancho. I mean, most of the playing squad is getting it, but him quite badly. And he is a £72 million signing. The first season for me has not gone the way a lot of United fans expected. I'm sure it hasn't gone how he's expected. There has been a sharp turn in form since Ollie has gone, but I still don't think it's at the level, again, of a player that costs that much money. That's a fee that you pay for a player that elevates you to new levels. And that simply hasn't happened for his fault or for anyone's. Did Dan James get more hate for less? Perhaps. But I think that's also because I think people recognize what kind of player Jadon Sancho is and see a long-term future with him. I think Dan James, the hate towards him almost wasn't aimed at him, but the idea that this guy was getting minutes for Manchester United.
I agree. I think people are often I've always had this thought that Sancho, if he underperforms, deserves more criticism than Dan James because he is
the better player.
Yeah, superior in nearly every, barring speed, he's superior in every other attribute. People often I was angry that Dan James was still here. but I was unhappy that the club hadn't recognized he wasn't good enough.
Right. It's not his fault. Exactly.
Exactly. I'm just maybe a different type of person where I don't take that out on Dan James. When Fellaini was still at the club when he shouldn't have been, I wasn't angry at Fellaini. I was angry at the club. I think we have this underbelly of United fans who take it out. Equally, though, where I agree with this tweet is we have a propensity to do that at Man United as fans, where
100%.
people will say, you know, the report coming from Spain are Anthony Martial is going to be sent back at the end of the season, and Sevilla, they don't even want to consider buying him. He's been that bad.
See what their fans are saying.
Yeah, their fans don't like what he's doing. And the reason that I'm unhappy for Martial, I'm more so unhappy for Man United because it's going to be harder to sell him, and he doesn't want to be here. But there's a part of me that like wants to like laugh loudly, not at Martial, not at Man United, but at certain fans, because they will tell you that on ability levels, he is night and day, light years in front of Marcus Rashford. But yet right now, both of them are playing horrendously.
Worst football of their careers.
However, the same people that like criticize Rashford tell you he's rubbish. So if you're saying he's rubbish, he's performing rubbish, why are you angry at the player? He's performing at his level. Comes to Martial, who's got this high ceiling and this huge ability, but he isn't delivering. Surely that should temper a much worse response, because you know he's better than that. You can't be angry at Rashford because he's playing at his level now.
I completely agree.
And that's where that argument, but have a go at Man United for giving Rashford a new contract and not selling him. But Martial as the individual deserves more criticism than Rashford, because in their eyes, it should be, because in their eyes, he's superior. And that's where I agree with that tweet. We have this thing at United where I get angry at the rubbish players, but the top class, like for me, Pogba dropping inconsistent performances is much more embarrassing than McTominay doing it. As a club, it's more embarrassing than McTominay's there still because he isn't good enough. But I'm less angry with him than I am Pogba, because my expectations for Pogba are up here, because he's, for me, ability-wise, he's the best midfield player in the league. But it's an interesting hot take. Viewers, want your thoughts on it. Should Sancho get more criticism than Dan James? Now, Arsenal, Liaz.
Snap back to reality.
They got back. Listen, I don't like saying they got beat by Palace. They got absolutely obliterated, annihilated, baptized. I'm quoting HH here. Baptized, circumcised. I don't know any other words that rhyme with that now. They got beat hard. However, they got a game against Brighton Saturday. Brighton could not score in a brothel.
We need to talk about Brighton, by the way. Their last, I think, 10, 15 games, I see maybe 3 wins. Graham Potter, I mean, he's a guy that we hype up when things are going well. Where's that same energy?
Listen, look, where I'd be a little bit sympathetic with Graham Potter is budgets, money. It doesn't. If you gave him a killer up front,
right,
I think they'd be okay.
They're okay, to be honest.
They're okay.
Yeah.
They're okay.
They're the table.
But I do hear you on that. But that's my point. I know Arsenal fans are in this weird panic mode right now.
Yeah,
they're like,
they're scared.
Oh no, the league's over. Tini's gone.
The same ones who were talking about Champions League next season.
Yeah. No party. Like he's out now. Isn't going to happen. They've gone from we're winning the Champions League compilations to it's all done. It's over. It's finished.
You saw that compilation?
Yeah, I see that. I saw that compilation.
But
I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, hang on a minute. You're playing Brighton next, who, if they fell into a barrel full of boobs, they'd come out sucking their thumb, right?
Good Ian Holloway quote. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, be like yourself. I didn't know if you'd know. It's a great one. They're not awful, Brighton, but you're at home. They're at home, right? Is it
at the Emirates?
Is it the Emirates?
Yeah.
You've got one of the best home records in the league. If you need Kieran Tierney and Partey to beat Brighton, you don't deserve top 4. I'm like, you're just trying to play the pressure down now. How are Arsenal fans trying to turn Brighton at home into the underdog story?
But you have to understand, Arsenal fans have gone through a lot the last 10 years, more than 10 years, honestly. The amount of times they've choked, the amount of times that they've bottled, the amount of times that they've capitulated. And I think the fact that Spurs won 5-1 the day before has people sweating, because they bigged up this team, and rightfully so. Like, Arsenal this season has earned a lot of respect in a lot of people's eyes. But I think the 5-1 from Spurs, coupled with the loss, I think has sent people to overdrive. It's sent people PTSD, Wenger era, Unai Emery era. But I'm with you, Terry. Like, it's Brighton at the end of the day. Like, if you can't be Brighton at home at the Emirates, you don't deserve top 4. Simple.
No, you don't. And for that reason, I am going to go with an Arsenal win. I'm saying Arsenal win.
Easy.
2-0. I think they'll beat them 2-0. Early goal, mid to late goal. They'll get the 3 points, and I think it will make the fans relax. I think they'll relax, and then they'll be more confident going into Southampton.
I think so. Yeah. Listen, I think Arsenal fans just need to relax a bit. Like, it was never as straightforward as it was a few weeks ago when they were already guaranteeing you top 4. And it's not straightforward now anymore when they're saying, oh, Spurs are going to recover and Arsenal are going to crumble. There's still 9 games left to play. Spurs and Arsenal still have to play. I think that's going to be a blockbuster at White Hart Lane. I think that's going to be such a good game. Just let it play out, man. Believe in your team. This is the same guys that you guys have been bigging up all season long. They didn't change overnight.
Exactly. I have a hot take here.
Oh, boy. Go on.
It's from our friend Igal.
Oh,
Big up yourself, Igal. He says here, true or false, Santi Cazorla was better than David Silva.
False. False. That's an egregious take. That's not even a hot take. Whatever metric you want to bring into play, that's a hot take. That's an egregious take. I'll look at Spain, first of all. David Silva is, I believe, the 3rd or 4th top scorer in Spanish football history for the national team. Bear in mind, he played for the most successful Spanish team ever. One of the best international teams ever. He was a key component of that. In a midfield of Iniesta, Xavi, and Busquets, Silva still managed to get a place in that team. Cazorla was rotting on the bench every World Cup, every Euros. And no disrespect, that's one of the greatest midfields, if not the greatest midfield of all time. Cazorla just couldn't get into it. Silva did. Silva for Manchester City, key component in Premier League winning teams constantly. One of the most assistant in Premier League history. I think, who is it? One of the pundits on Sky Sports who goes there quite regularly will tell you David Silva is the best Premier League player ever in his eyes. I don't agree with that, but he's up there. Cazorla is a terrific player, one of the most underrated I've seen in the Premier League for the last 10 years. And I think even in those really bad Arsenal teams, he was typically a guy that you could rely on, not just aesthetically because he's a brilliant player, 2-footed, but he's effective as well. He could run games. But there's levels to this show right now. David Silva, for me, is in the echelon of the best midfielders of all time in Premier League history. I wouldn't put him at the top, but he's up there. Cazorla, I don't think did it long enough, A, and B, I don't think he did it to the level of David Silva.
I agree with so much of what you've said. City players are easy targets.
Yeah, 100%.
They're easy targets because they have a smaller fan base on social media. You know, the Arsenal fan base win every poll anyway, and it's cheap. Like,
who won that poll, by the way?
It's for people. Oh, I didn't actually check, right? So let's just click on it here.
Go on,
how many trues and false we got here? We're finding this. Where's this at? Where's it at? I've got to scroll. Here we go. So quite a few responses. False, false, false. In fairness, I mean, he is. I think they're on this Arsenal fan here. Alex AFC Deck says I think they're on par.
Oh, brother.
Quite a lot. Mainly falses, to be fair. Okay. If injuries weren't in there, he would have been. Santi was brilliant, and I wouldn't change him for Silva, but I am biased. Why wouldn't you change him? So there's mostly false, but there are quite a few kind of backing it.
Cazorla was a brilliant player. Like, let's not get it twisted. This isn't like we're comparing McTominay to Silva here. Cazorla is terrific.
Yeah, he is.
He was taking corners of his left foot at times. Like, you wouldn't even know the difference.
Yeah, but David Silva was just... If David Silva had delivered for City, if he'd have done what he did for City in a United kit, in an Arsenal kit, in a Liverpool kit, there would be conversations right now with Gerrard, with Lampard, with Scholes, and he deserves to be in that conversation. 100%. Technically, like
different late year, bro.
Barring Scholes, but then again, David Silva played advanced his whole career. Scholes was a deep line midfield player, and I sometimes feel like when you start comparing midfielders, you have to differentiate between the types because their roles are different. I don't think David Silva could have sat as deep as Scholes for 10 years.
I don't think he could either, no.
But from a creative point of view, yeah, he wasn't as prolific a goal scorer.
He was a magician, man.
But he was. And the thing is, it was his team. You look at all those players, like City's record with him, what they won, what they achieved. Lampard is on par with him, but like it leaves Liverpool behind. And again, Gerrard was not in bad Liverpool teams for the last part of his career. But no, listen, Santi Cazorla, listen, as you say, very good player, but not in his league for me. Viewers, we want your take on that. Santi Cazorla or David Silva?
That's egregious, man.
Let us know what you think. True or false in the comments, people. Let us know. Now, the other half of the other third, I suppose, of the top 4 race is Tottenham.
Yep.
Scoring a lot of goals at the minute.
They look brilliant.
Harry Kane back to being the best striker in the world, and across all metrics, like in terms of the creativity and everything.
Right now, he's up there in terms of, you want to talk about best players in the world right now? He's up there.
Yeah, he's up there. And do you know what it is when it comes to strikers with Harry Kane, real quick? when it comes to who's the better finisher, when people say Lewandowski, when people say Benzema and all of this, I don't think there's much difference.
I don't think so either.
The one thing I've not seen Benzema and Lewandowski or Suarez when he was at his pomp do that Kane does so consistently is that dropping deep and his ability to pass.
Yeah.
He passes a ball in the same. He's in the same ballpark as Trent and KDB when it comes to passing.
He's up there. I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, he's a better passer.
As in those passes, like threading the balls, through balls, crosses, balls over the top. I'm not talking like general intricate play in the middle as a midfield player, but I haven't seen a striker since Wayne Rooney that plays those kind of balls as consistently as Harry Kane does. And that being discussed with their form right now, they go away to Villa. They just look like an absolute machine right now, Tottenham.
Yeah, Antonio Conte. Listen, I don't know how you feel about it as a United fan, but he's making probably a lot of United fans really like eat their words about what they said about him, probably regretting not wanting him at the club in the first place. I don't know where most United fans sit on that, but he's showing that he's an elite manager. Like, there's no question about it. Winning titles with Inter, winning titles with Chelsea, winning titles with Juve. He's an elite manager, and I tweeted this out. I'm actually surprised this is one of the hot takes, but maybe it's not hot at all. For me, Antonio Conte is the best floor-raising manager on the planet in terms of no one takes bang average players and elevates them a level, 2 levels, 3 levels. He's done it consistently throughout his career. Got Chelsea with Alonso and Moses. He made them a title-winning. And here's the thing. Moses was a key player in that Chelsea team. It's not like he just threw him like Fabian Delph. Moses was contributing in that Chelsea team. He goes to Inter. Matteo Darmian and Alexis Sanchez and United spare parts. Ashley Young.
Bro, he made Chelsea fans
think Lukaku was
Ronaldo. He made Chelsea fans think Ronaldo was R9. Now, you are bang on. Antonio Conte is amazing. And I was getting cooked a few weeks ago, mainly by Gooners. And they're saying, oh, you said Antonio Conte would get Tottenham top 4 when he got signed. I said, look, I did say if United kept Ollie. So there was always that. I thought we'd be a lot better with Ollie gone, to be fair. And I thought we'd be better on the field of play. I never thought there'd be long-term success without making internal changes, but I thought we'd be better.
I agree. I thought so too, and we were wrong.
And that hasn't happened. And Conte had that little blip in the middle, and he was moaning. It sounded like he wanted to go. And everyone's like, oh, could it be a bad appointment? And the Spurs team have responded to that, and they've listened to him. He has some of the best man management skills in the world.
Crazy.
That team is starting to be defensively secure and hard to break down. The signings of Kulusevski and Bentancur are inspired.
Yeah,
they were. He is signing players that fit how he wants his team to play.
But here's the thing with Conte: he can almost make anyone fit his system.
No, it's true. It's true. And they just look dangerous right now.
Yeah,
there is still the overarching. Are they going to be Spursy?
Yeah,
and you have to ask that. Will they be Spursy again? But they just look dangerous right now. And when it comes to this time of the season is when you want to come into form. And maybe Arsenal's form came 2 months too early. United's has never come. You know, if Spurs barely deviate from this, they will be very, very hard to catch, because in the form they're in, if they played Arsenal this weekend,
they would beat them.
They would smash them.
Yeah.
You know, I think they'd beat nearly anybody at the moment. They've beaten City.
Yeah.
They
beat City twice.
the only issue is it's when they get into that moment of everyone expects you to do it. And then you get beat by Burnley. And that's why this weekend's key.
Villa away,
beat Villa away. They're a decent side. And suddenly the gauntlet is more than thrown down. On that, what's the score going to be?
I think Spurs will win. I think Spurs will win 2-0. I think they will. And we haven't even talked about the defense, for example. Christian Romero right now is showing why last year he was Serie A best defender in the league, why he won the Copa America of Argentina. Like, he's showing that was shrewd business in the summer by Spurs. They look like a great team right now. That front three is firing on all cylinders. Kulusevski, I didn't think would be half as good as he is. He's been incredible since he joined. I think Spurs right now, you're correctly saying it, they are one of the hottest teams in the league, and I don't think Villa will have enough to stop them. Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1. I think they're going to score lots of goals. You're right about Romero looking very, very good, and he's going to get better and better and better. And when you stick someone better than Dyer next to him as well. Yeah. For sure. You stick someone better than Emerson and Doherty on the other side. That's another thing. Doherty is suddenly rediscovering his Wolves form under Conte. Like, the guy is a miracle. Structure is so important. Man. Confidence in players, mentality is so key, and he's instilling that. So it's going to be an interesting one.
I'm gonna do another hot take. It isn't related to Tottenham. It isn't related to Tottenham, but I saw this and I wanted to get everybody's opinion. Okay. Slightly different one to what you sent me.
Okay.
But it's on the same themes. This is completely outside the Prem now. Kylian Mbappe is very close to Cristiano Ronaldo's peak. He just needs to add long shots to his game. He's already slightly better dribbler and a better creator than prime Cristiano Ronaldo.
Wow. We got to change the name of the show, man. It can't be hot takes anymore. This has to be like America's Biggest Idiots or something like that. Man, we got to change the show up somehow.
I don't know if this person's American, but...
Oh, my God, man. Oh, my God.
Albanian, I think, is the flag on his profile
You've just disgraced your nation, my friend. Wow, that's crazy. Prime Cristiano Ronaldo. Terry, this is a guy that I think there was one season he scored, I think he contributed 70+ goal contributions in a calendar year. We're talking about, listen, I'm a Messi fan. I think everyone knows that. I think he's the best of all time. But second place is Cristiano Ronaldo on my list, man. And a lot of people's list, he's number one. This guy has done it for a decade at the highest level, putting up numbers that we have never seen before. The only one that's matched it is a contemporary, who's also an alien, by the way.
They showed it on Monday Night Football. Rooney was on there to talk about Kane. They showed strikers or attackers with the most assists. I think it was from since 2012. I can't remember the date. I didn't look. Messi's on top with 200.
Right.
And you had so many great names on there, Aguero, many others. But Ronaldo's sitting there in second on 123.
It's crazy.
The next closest attacker to him was on about 88 or something. And I haven't looked at it since. I'm kind of just trying to remember it. But I know he was on 123. Kylian Mbappe has the ability to be he has the ability right now to win 2, 3, 4 Ballon d'Ors.
I agree.
He really is that
For me,
good.
he's the best in the world right now. Yeah.
And I think that's a fair take. What I find with Ronaldo is I feel like maybe it's a social media era, but I feel like he is the first GOATed player, first player in GOAT conversation history, who the 35 to 37-year-old version, that is kind of, people try and use that as a mask to cover up his entire career.
Let me tell you this, Terry. I remember strictly on this show, I think it was when Salah scored a hat-trick against United. We were together, and I told you this season, because it's so recent and because it's in everyone's face and it's the Premier League, everyone watches every game, will make people change who they have as the second best Premier League player of all time. If they have Henry as number one, Ronaldo as number two, this will shift it in their heads, and they'll think Salah is the second best. Or in a Premier League all-time team, they'll shift it so that Salah is in ahead of Ronaldo. And it's just because that's the most recent version. This is what we're seeing in our face week in.
It's one of the reasons why with Eric Cantona, when he retired, I respected it because he went out on the top.
Yeah.
You don't remember Cantona going backwards.
It's the same thing.
He probably went out a little bit too early, to be fair. But it's almost these things. It's why the likes of Maldini and Ryan Giggs as football players are so special, because they were still
40 years old
and still delivering at the highest level. But like with Ronaldo, these kind of takes are crazy. There's the weirdest myth that he was never a very good dribbler.
That's crazy.
He was a different type of dribbler to Messi. So then we've gotten to this point now where everyone's got a type of dribbling. So Messi's, it's almost like the ball is stuck to his foot and he can weave. Ronaldo's was different. There was skills, there was tricks, there was techniques.
It was explosive.
And it was explosive. It was different. And again, it's a preference thing. I've always said that explosive player I've always liked more than the intricate one. That's just that's how
aesthetics. It's like what you prefer.
What I like to see, but I rate them all very good. But the takes that Ronaldo isn't a good goal scorer and wasn't a brilliant creator, one of the greatest creators of all time, statistically speaking, is mental. Did he play passes like Zidane? No. But nor does Mbappe.
No, nor does almost anyone on the planet ever.
And this is the crazy thing. If Mbappe was doing what Harry Kane's doing right now, so using his pace to get him behind, scoring great goals,
plus doing what,
storing screamers, pulling off passes that are out of this world. Now Ronaldo's pulled off some great passes in his time. His assists were more, I'll beat a man, I'll lay a ball off to somebody. Even in his latter years, in his 30s, I've seen him do this assist at least 5 times where he's gone to go one way and then backheeled a player in. Things like that. And now I know if Messi did that, people would be putting their pants down and their boxer shorts down, getting out a wet sock and having a play. But Ronaldo does it and everyone goes, ooh. Why I stand so hard for Ronaldo is because people try so hard to not say this player's better. they try to they take away from what he's done rather than just saying, well, I rate this guy because of these reasons. And I find it very disrespectful. Mbappe is great, but listen, when it comes to player comparisons, barring Messi versus Ronaldo, in my opinion, when it comes to attacking players, you compare nobody in the modern era to Messi or Ronaldo. You leave them alone. They are out of the comparison charts. They are away by themselves in a league of their own.
Even Pep, I remember Pep. There was the season Raheem Sterling was like level with Ronaldo at one point on like goals in the year, and he was asking like, is Sterling on the verge of breaking into that category? And he says, listen, Raheem Sterling is a world-class player, but no one touches. And he's talking about his own player. He says no one will touch Ronaldo and Messi. And for me, I see these comparisons. Mbappe, I don't know, whoever you want to compare. You're just setting them up for slander. You're setting them up for failure. No one can compare to what these two have done. And I think we're only going to recognize this once they retire and we see the next 20 years of football. No one is able to replicate what they do. And then you'll realize what we just witnessed is abnormal.
And you'll look back and you'll have a player like Mbappe that maybe scores 400, 500 goals in his career. And we're like, wow. And they'll go, oh my God, Ronaldo scored 900. And it's only then you'll realize how hard it really is.
These guys are aliens, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's the thing with Ronaldo. The last thing is, a lot of people don't realize that Ronaldo almost had like 2 careers. Up until 2014, he was, for me, this was his best version. Even though he may have won more in his second half of his career, he was complete. The guy was the complete forward, could run at you, could run in behind, could dribble, could take. This was when he was still an elite free kick taker, shoot from 50 yards out, bicycle kicks, one of the best in the air, a complete forward. And then I think injuries kind of racked up. He had the injury at the World Cup, came back, and and this is, in fact, it's credit to him. He refined his game. He became the ultimate goal scorer, the ultimate poacher. And that's what people have in their heads.
That's why I rate him so highly. And I'm consistent in this. One of my reasons as to why on a footballing level, I know he's a hard player to talk about because of the current court cases, but Ryan Giggs, why he impressed me so much, is marauding winger into holding midfield player. And to do them both at Premier League winning standard shows how good a football player. What Wayne Rooney being able to drop from being a second striker, went to being a 9, he could play on the wing, he could play 10, he went into midfield, and he did them all to a very high level. That shows for Ronaldo to start off as a right midfielder, to a right winger, to a left winger, to an inside forward, to a complete forward, to a number 9, into a goal poacher over his career and adapt well. Like Ian Rush was a great goal poacher. He could never have done the things earlier on in his career. So many players they get to a point where their game doesn't work anymore and they fade because they don't have the ability. How many strikers you see in the pace go? Look at Michael Owen. For me, Michael Owen's pace went.
I look at Thierry Henry. He was literally an MLS at 32 years old, and that's no discredit to him. That's what most players do.
Exactly.
That's why I'm saying you can't compare them to aliens.
And that's why if you sat down if you got Henry, Inzaghi, I'm trying to think of other great strikers, Batistuta, Ruud van Nistelrooy, and let me have a great striker that's retired.
I don't know.
R9. Right. If you sat them all in a room and showed them what fans say about Ronaldo,
they'd laugh.
They would laugh at you. They would laugh at you.
I wish I was doing what he was doing at 37. Yeah. That's no slight on them, but
some of them would say, I wish I was doing it at any point in my career.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
It is what it is, man.
Speaking of crazy,
okay,
this weekend, Man City versus Liverpool.
Yep.
Dubbed as a title decider.
I think so.
Talk to me.
What was that Gary Neville quote a few years ago? Man City versus Liverpool for the title. It's like choosing between 2 blokes and nick your wife. That's basically how I feel right now, man. It's going to be a brilliant game. Honestly, I remember the first game this season where it finished 2-2. It's one of the best games of football we've seen in years. They were correctly talking about it, Bouvie and Mons, about City, Liverpool a few years ago, 18-19, when both finished on 98 and 99 points. The game that basically most people think decided the title, 2-1, is one of the greatest games in terms of quality the Premier League has ever seen. We're looking at the 2 best managers, not just in the world right now, but of the last 5-6 years. For me, Pep of the last decade. You look at the 2 best teams on the planet. You're looking at some of the best players in the world in terms of Salah, De Bruyne, Foden, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Everywhere you look, you're looking at an elite level to a point that I haven't seen since Barca and Real were at the pinnacle of football. Jose versus Pep, Ronaldo versus Messi. I haven't seen this level of elite going head to head against each other as often as they do since that era. And we have the first of many, in my opinion, because we're going to see them for the league today or this weekend. We're going to see them in the FA Cup in a week, I think. And I think we're going to see them in the Champions League final. I think these 2 teams will meet in that final. And as a United fan, it sucks, right? But as a football fan, you have to just kind of soak it in and just enjoy it because you're looking at excellence right now.
Yeah, you are. And, we're speaking off camera. They've taken football like Fergie did, like Wenger did, like Jose did. They've taken it all to a next level. And whenever every generation sees a level change, it goes up and everyone's, it's the best ever. And I get it. In reality, in reality, it is better. But it's hard to compare eras because
I'm with you.
You don't know some of the scientific and sports science and dietary advancements in the last 10 years. People didn't know existed. You didn't know what you didn't know.
Sport gradually gets better, but that's
exactly. Like Usain Bolt being brilliant doesn't take away from how fast and great Jesse Owens was.
I'm completely with you.
You have to like compare that. But talking about it in this context, best two teams in the world, they're sensational, both of them. I look at this game and I think to myself,
imagine it's a boring 0-0.
But it's can you imagine like absolute letdown. It's a colossal game. It's a powerhouse game. When I'm looking at it as an individual match, though, Liverpool for me seem to have the bit between their teeth, and nearly every single second half performance from Liverpool in the last couple of months feels like the teams have had opportunities against them, but no one can score.
No one.
They defend resolutely. Diaz looks great. Mane can get goals. Firmino's had a bit of a resurgence in terms of his play. But Mo Salah's the key for me this week. He's been awful for 2 months in terms of goal scoring.
AFCON ruined him.
Yeah, I've heard it's Christmas tree tax. But like, I see all these things out there, right?
If you know, you know.
Yeah. When it comes to it. But Mo Salah, and I keep getting called up by City fans. They think I want this to happen. I don't. I want City to win the league from this point. But Mo Salah, brace, 2-1 Liverpool victory. They go on to win the league by 5 points. All after this Sunday.
I know you have been saying that quite often, to be honest.
When they were 14 points behind, or 13 points, and City drew with Southampton, and then the following game was when my mind changed. I saw how they played against Brentford, and then I watched what Liverpool were doing. I was like, I just had a feeling Liverpool going to catch them. I just could see trajectory. City, they just haven't been that good. Look, I'm talking by their standards. I'm not talking about everybody else.
They fell off a level.
They look stiff. They look. I said it the other night. It's like arthritis FC. They're a little bit stiff. They're not moving as freely as they should be. And you see it in all sports. When a boxer's not bobbing and weaving right, when a tennis player just isn't quite getting to those tight shots in the corners. Liverpool are, and they're not. And I predict a Liverpool win, 2-1, Mo Salah brace, and that's why it'll be over for the rest of the season, because that will kick him back into gear. Liverpool be uncatchable.
It's not out of the realms of possibility. I'm not going to call you like that's not a hot take, for example, contrary to the show title, but I see it a little differently. And maybe it's the United fan in me again that doesn't want to see Liverpool win the league. Maybe it's because I've hyped City up so much at this point, but I rate Pep a lot, man. And I think in a game like this, Liverpool have not beat City at the Etihad since that Champions League tie a few years ago. I just see City at the Etihad getting it. And I know I completely agree with everything you just said. Liverpool, the last few months, honestly, looked like that old Liverpool when they won the league. And they weren't playing great every season, but they just know how to win games, man. I keep telling you, they remind me of that Fergie team that even when they don't play well, they're going to win. They just have that mentality that's at a different level. But I think City at the Etihad, they are a different beast. And I think De Bruyne is slowly getting back in the goal-scoring form. And Foden, man. The kid is special. The kid is I don't think he's Mbappe level, but I think he's probably the next best thing. Like, sure, he's not a generational goal scorer like Mbappe, but he's looking to be. But let's put it simply, right? Pep, how many players can you look at and say Pep Guardiola has switched his system up slightly to allow a creative player with free reign to do what he wants? I look at Messi, I look at maybe Robin at Bayern, and I look at Foden. These are the only players Pep looks at and says, you have the license to do whatever you want, go where you want, roam where you want. He's that special of a player. I think City will get it done this weekend, and I think it will be enough to win the league, because I think then it'll be, 4 points? And I don't think City will drop 4 points in the next 8 games.
Well, but it could go either way. It's basically a 5-point swing they would need from that point again.
Here's one thing, though, that we haven't talked about. We talked about Salah. Could he have a resurgence? Trent, possibly the greatest creator on the planet right now. For me, Van Dijk, man, since January has returned to his monstrous best. Yeah,
it took him a few months to almost shake the cobwebs off that injury. When you've got the best centre-back in the world by a fair way. And I know a lot of Chelsea fans talk about Thiago Silva, that I think is very good. I just think that Thiago Silva's age, Van Dijk's just superior to him now. Career-wise, a different conversation. But yeah, Van Dijk's just looking amazing.
Put that kid Konate next to him, man. The kid's a beast.
I know. And just crazy about it, but I know he made a mistake the other night, but they could both play ball, both athletic,
both aggressors,
both fast, both tall, strong, big.
They're complete center backs.
It's ridiculous. It's like it's like Vidic and Rio had 2 kids, and there they are.
It's like if you combine Vidic and Rio's best qualities and then multiply
it's ridiculous how good they are. And to think as well, a lot of people were worried about Konate because of the injury scares he's had in the past. What a signing he's been. And
even if he doesn't play, they got Matip. It's not like Matip.
I know, and they're so stacked. They're so stacked and doing so well.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're looking at the elite of the elite with these 2 teams. Every position, the 2 best fullbacks, Cancelo and Trent, 2 best goalkeepers, Edison.
And I keep saying this to their fans. When I criticize your teams, I'm criticizing you in the context of the best of the best of the best, not the other 19
We're not looking at it from a United point of view.
It's a different view. But I do have the final hot take of the show.
Okay.
It's related to Liverpool.
Okay.
I'm going to read it to you now. It says, I rank Gerrard top in the best Premier League midfielders ever. But I don't know what language this needs to be said in. No Premier League midfielder in history of the league breaks into the best ever La Liga 11.
I love that take. Why do you think that is?
It's obviously from you. That's your take. That is your take.
It's my take.
So in your opinion, so no midfielder that's ever played in the Premier League could ever get into the La Liga team, like greatest ever La Liga team.
If you want to read my my follow-up tweet to that, I actually said I think it's debatable if they even get into the second team. Let's say we play a 4-3-3, right? Let's say if we play a 4-3-3. I think the first tweet is spot on, in my opinion. 4-3-3, 3 midfielders, Xavi, Iniesta, and Zidane. What midfielder is breaking into, from the Premier League era, is getting in over a multiple-time Ballon d'Or win? Zidane, I think we can agree, is unquestionable.
Zidane said Scholes is better than him.
Do you think Scholes is better than Zidane?
Yes.
Well, then maybe you put Scholes in your team. Zidane, Xavi, Iniesta. No. That's the pinnacle of the sport, man.
So I get that. So you don't think a Gerrard or a Scholes gets a sniff even in the second team?
No. Okay. So this is where for me it gets questionable. We talked about Modric the other day. For me, Modric has cemented himself in that conversation of best midfielders of all time. The trophies that he's won, the individual awards that he's won, the role that he's played in some of the best teams of the modern era.
So you would say Modric, just career-wise, better as a footballer. Forget them, better than Steven Gerrard.
Yeah, I think Modric is a better player than Gerrard, 100%. And I think the next one that I'm putting in there, better than any Premier League midfielder for me. This one, we're getting more questionable, obviously, because we've gone past the Zidanes, the Xavis. Sergio Busquets, for me, the best holding midfielder of the modern era, in my opinion. Then you have that third midfield position, and you can look at your Gerrards, you can look at your Paul Scholeses, you can look at your Patrick Vieira's, your De Bruyne's. Then I think you can have the conversation, because that third one, you're looking at guys like Laudrup, you're looking at guys like, if you want to put Figo in midfield. I can hear that one. But for me, that's starting 3 of midfielders. Toni Kroos, another one.
But I think what's really interesting with Kroos and Modric is this. They would have an argument to being over Xavi and Iniesta if they had more domestic success. But obviously, because what they did in the Champions League is ridiculous.
Unprecedented.
4 in 3. Was Toni Kroos there for all of them? And
no, but he won the Champions League with Bayern.
So they've won 4 Champions Leagues, and there just hasn't been enough dominance in the league, although they've won it.
Here's another thing too. Kroos is a World Cup winner.
Yeah,
possibly the best player on that German team. Modric carried Croatia to a World Cup. And for me, I put Modric more ahead of Kroos because I just prefer Modric. I think Kroos is a footballer. I can hear
I think Xavi and Iniesta, I think what tips it for me, not just the trophies, is dominance. It was the dominance, but also their football was so good as they were the heartbeat of the team that created
teams, by the way, Spain and Barca.
Yeah, but it's the point I'm making is tiki-taka. So you've had total football, you've had tiki-taka. There are other examples out there. Real Madrid's team didn't have a name that was well known. What the style of football, it wasn't named something like that. And I think in terms of greatness, that plays a big part. If you get where I'm coming from. In terms of functionality, though, I think you'd probably have to take out Zidane and put in Busquets. But we're not going to do functionality. But I get your point. I get where you're coming from. I still feel though, and this comes down to like Premier League versus La Liga at times. I always remember, like, even when Man United were very good in like 07, 08, 09, I used to look at the Barcelona team and I used to go, why can't we just have that? Like, why can't we buy those types of players? And sometimes it's always been hard for the English teams to attract certain types of talent. Lots of South American talent. They want to be at Barcelona, Real Madrid. They're hard to kind of get hold of. I do think
weather plays a part in it too. Would you rather live in Madrid or live in Manchester?
Of course. I do think though that if you took Iniesta out or Xavi out of the Barcelona team and you put, this is where I put Paul Scholes at the top.
Okay, yeah.
Is if you took one of those two out and put Paul Scholes in their position, they would still be able to play that style of football.
I think you have
where I think if you took one of them out and tried putting Gerrard or Lampard in there, it doesn't work.
Crumbles.
So it's the, on a technical level, I think Scholes is in that conversation. And you could argue on greatness. I mean, the one thing Scholes didn't have, and I sometimes, if he was as outspoken when he was a player as he is now, I think we're looking at a different Scholes.
100%.
Because he was this quiet, unassuming, I'll sit in the background and be nice and happy type of player. Where I feel he was never the superstar or the poster boy of Manchester United. And I honestly think it's because English football was so different when he came through. English football was all about what I call the smash bang, the wallop. Who's scoring the screamers? Who's the ones? Look, we had famed players that was seen as better or more famous because they kicked people in those days. That wasn't for me. That I've never got that impression from Italy or Spain or Portugal that the more violent players get more. Like, we had a point in this country where people thought Scott Parker was better than Michael Carrick. Why? Because he crunched into tackles.
Right.
And I think those little things kind of hindered Scholes from his success. But when you speak to foreign fans, and I say foreign fans, Paul Scholes, when you speak to the Spaniards, when you speak to the Italians, they're like magician.
I mean, did you see the Champions League final in 2011? Xavi and Iniesta are rushing to go get Paul Scholes' jersey. For me, Paul Scholes is like the least English player ever. Like he must have been born, like wherever he's born, like there's definitely a version of it in Spain.
There's no doubt. But I don't actually disagree with your take. I just thought we'd throw it out there to see what the viewers were going to say. Like La Liga especially has gone through an era where it was superior, and we knew it was, because if you actually look at the levels of Champions Leagues won by those two teams,
it's just crazy. From
sort of 2009 up until when did they win the last one, Real Madrid? 2018.
2018, yeah.
So if you look at that sort of period there,
Spanish football is dominated.
It dominated. So dominant, you can't not look at those teams and do that, you know.
I think here's a better question. Probably what I should have tweeted. This is for me a hot take. How many Premier League players get into an all-time La Liga team, period? Not just midfield.
Well, Ronaldo.
No, but which Ronaldo do you take? They claim that one. Because look at,
you know what? I'm going to be so honest with you. I can't, like, hypocrisy. I haven't watched enough La Liga to know. In terms of players that I would put up into a debate,
I'd put Ashley Cole in there.
Ashley Cole, I was about to say Ashley Cole. I think
I'd put Petr Cech in there.
Petr Cech can go into that. Schmeichel could probably go into that, as in over quality goalkeepers. I would put Paul Scholes into that conversation. Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, you'd put into the conversation.
Because I just think forwards, bro, you're looking at Messi, Ronaldo, and R9. Like, who breaks into that, bro?
I mean, we would be taking. We'd be taking.
Are you claiming Cristiano, or are they claiming Cristiano? Because he played in La Liga more.
But he won his first Ballon d'Or here. So I would take, if I'm taking our players to La Liga, you're taking Henry. Probably got to take. I'd probably take Aguero over Shearer, more to his bow. Harry Kane.
You're struggling, bro.
Do you know what it is? I feel like I'm naming great players, but they've just
then you think like they got I think Trent. Oh, they got Dani Alves.
Yeah, we got Trent. They got Dani Alves. Centre back.
They got Ramos. They got
centre backs. You know, when we take Rio and Van Dijk, I think we're good there
over Piqué and Ramos.
Yes. Especially Piqué ain't in it. Piqué ain't in it. That he's very good, but I put Rio in over Piqué every day of the week.
Interesting.
Holding midfield player. Who are we taking?
If we're going functionality, Busquets.
Ancolo? Conte.
No, Busquets is
Kante. Kante. No, actually, we're talking about. I'm sticking Pogba there, bro. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, listen, it's a hard. Do you know what we have got a shout of? Because he was great over there. Xavi Alonso. He's a Prem player for me on this argument.
Oh.
Yeah. He's one of us. It's a hard one. I mean, he was past his best. He's actually one of theirs. Claude Makélélé was obviously was obviously at Madrid. It's a real good. Do you know what this is? No research at the top of your head. He's trying to rack in your brains who goes into it. We already mentioned Scholes, but no,
I think I'd go Cech or Schmeichel, because I think both of them, they can stack a case against Casillas personally.
Yeah,
I'd go Ashley Cole, for me, the best left back maybe ever. But I would take him over Roberto Carlos, for example. Dani Alves on the right. The center backs, I think that's where like things get sticky, because I think you're right. But the Premier League has a strong case for that. Midfield, if you want functionality, I'm going Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets. I think that's
because I get that. It's hard. Do you know who would probably, again, I was about to name this player, but then I realized his best years were actually in La Liga. I was going to say Gareth Bale, but his best years in La Liga.
There's two. But that's the point. Really, you
yeah.
think of every Ballon d'Or winner, the best players of all time. Real Madrid or Barcelona snagged them up.
Luis
Suarez.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the ones where you got, but we get more people.
Here's another.
But more people watch our league. So
I was gonna say, here's the thing with the Premier League. Premier League is made up of 5. If you make an all-time 11, it's made up of 5-6 clubs. La Liga, it's 2 clubs.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's just 2 essentially. And even if you're a star player at another club, invariably you end up. That's it. Viewers, I'd love to know your combined Premier League, La Liga 11. We'd love to know. And everything else. Leah's great show today as ever, mate. Make sure you're hitting like buttons, subscribe, and all that jazz. And we'll see you all again soon. Thank you.
Peace.